My ex texted, "You can't replace me." I replied, "Watch me." Then she showed up everywhere. At my gym, my office. My first date, she said it was love, I called it obsession. By the time she found my new apartment, the police already had the folder. Original post, I'm Grant, 34M. My ex-girlfriend, Avery, 29F, and I dated for almost 3 years. We lived together for 11 months in my apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina. The lease was in my name. Always had been. She moved in after her roommate's situation became toxic, which I later learned meant her roommate asked her to pay rent on time and stop going through her things. Avery worked as a hairstylist at a salon near downtown. I work as a physical therapist at a sports rehab clinic. My job is routine, appointments, treatment plans, insurance notes, rebuilding knees and shoulders one boring stretch at a time. Avery said she loved that I was calm. Until calm stopped meaning peaceful and started meaning easy to corner. For the first year, she was intense in a flattering way, texting me good morning before I woke up, dropping off coffee at work, remembering little things I mentioned once, my favorite protein bars, my mom's birthday. The exact hoodie I wore on our third date. At first, it felt thoughtful. Then it felt monitored. If I was 10 minutes late replying, she asked who I was with. If I went to the gym without telling her, she asked why I was hiding plans. If a female patient left a good review mentioning my name, Avery would read it out loud in a fake, cheerful voice and say, "Wow, she sounds grateful." I told myself she was insecure. That was easier than admitting she was controlling. The breakup happened on a Tuesday night. I came home from work exhausted. Avery was sitting on the couch with my tablet in her lap. Not hers. Mine. She had guessed my passcode months earlier because it was my dog's birthday. Yes, stupid, I know. She said, "Who is Morgan?" I said, "A patient." She turned the tablet toward me. It was my clinic schedule. Morgan had a follow-up appointment Thursday at 4 p.m. Avery said, "You see her a lot." I said she tore her ACL. Avery said, "Don't be cute." I stood there with my work bag still over my shoulder and something in me finally got tired. Not angry, tired. I said, "Avery, we're done." She blinked. Then she laughed. "No, we're not." I said, "Yes, we are." She stood up and started pacing. Said I was overreacting. Said couples fight. Said I was throwing away 3 years because she cared too much. Said I had trained her to feel unsafe by being secretive. I said, "You went through my work schedule." She said, "Because you hide things." I said, "I hide patient information from you because federal law exists." That made her scream, not words at first, just sound. Then she threw my tablet onto the couch, not hard enough to break it, hard enough to make a point. I told her she needed to stay somewhere else that night. Her sister Kendra lived 20 minutes away. Avery said she wasn't leaving her home. I said it was my apartment, my lease, and I would give her 30 days to collect her things properly, but we were done as a couple. She said, "You don't get to decide that alone." I said, "I do when I'm leaving the relationship." She stared at me like I had started speaking another language. That night, I slept in the bedroom with the door locked. She slept on the couch, or pretended to. I heard her walking around until 3 a.m. The next morning, I took my tablet to work, changed every password I could think of, and called the apartment office to ask about removing her from the access list. She texted me at 1012 a.m. "You can't replace me." I stared at it for maybe 5 seconds. Then I replied, "Watch me." Not my most mature moment, but honest. By lunch, I had 22 missed calls. By 4 p.m., I had texts from her sister, her best friend, and a number I didn't recognize. Her best friend, Paige, wrote, "She's having a panic attack because of you. Is this really who you are?" I replied, "She went through my clinic schedule and accused me of cheating with a patient recovering from knee surgery." No reply. Kendra called at 6 p.m. I answered because I had always liked Kendra. She said, "Grant, I know Avery can be a lot, but breaking up over one mistake seems extreme." I said, "Kendra, has she told you she went through my medical appointment schedule?" Silence. Then Kendra said she saw a message. I said there was no message. It was a patient appointment. Longer silence. Then Kendra sighed. She said, "Damn it, Avery." That was the first time I realized even her own family knew this pattern. When I got home, Avery was gone. So was my gray gym hoodie, 2 framed photos, my spare apartment key, and the little ceramic bowl by the door where I kept my change. She left a sticky note on the fridge. "This isn't over." I photographed it. At the time, I thought I was being dramatic. I was not. That photo became page 1 of the folder. Update 1. 4 days later. 4 days later, Avery started appearing in places she did not belong. First was the gym. I go to a small gym near my apartment. Nothing fancy. Treadmills that squeak, old dumbbells. One guy who treats the cable machine like a spiritual experience. I go at 6 a.m. because I like quiet. Avery hated mornings. During our relationship, she once said people who voluntarily wake up before sunrise are either CEOs or emotionally damaged. So when I saw her standing near the water fountain at 6:18 a.m. wearing full makeup and matching workout clothes I had never seen before, I knew it was not a coincidence. She smiled like we had planned to meet. "Hey." I said, "Avery, you don't work out here." She said. I joined. "Self-improvement." I said, "Good luck with that." Then I walked past her. She followed me to the stretching area and started talking about closure. Said she had been thinking. Said she understood now that she scared me. Said I should have communicated better before abandoning her. I said, "I'm here to work out. Please leave me alone." She lowered her voice. "You don't have to perform like this. Nobody's watching." I looked directly at the security camera in the corner. I said, "Actually, they are." Then I went to the front desk and asked the manager, Trent, to document that my ex had followed me after I asked her not to. Trent looked uncomfortable but wrote it down. That was page 2. The second appearance was at my favorite coffee shop. Avery never liked that place. She said their chairs looked like punishment and their lattes tasted like burnt rent money. Yet there she was on Friday afternoon, sitting at the table by the window with my gray hoodie folded beside her. She said, "I brought this back." I said, "You could have mailed it." She said, "I wanted to see your face when you realized you missed me." I said, "I didn't." Her smile disappeared, just for a second. Then she slid the hoodie across the table. I didn't touch it. She said, "Are you really going to act like I'm dangerous?" I said, "I'm going to act like someone who asked you for space and didn't get it." She started crying quietly, not loud, controlled. The barista looked over. Avery said, "I just love you, Grant." I said, "Love listens." Then I left the hoodie on the table and walked out. That night the social media post started. Nothing with my name at first, just vague stories. Some people call it obsessed when you're the only one fighting for love. Then, avoidance will make you feel crazy for caring. Then a selfie with swollen eyes and the caption, "Healing from someone who made me beg for basic reassurance." I did not respond. But my cousin Riley did. Riley replied to her story, "Didn't you go through his work schedule?" Avery blocked Riley, then unblocked her, then messaged her a paragraph about how family should stay out of private matters. Riley sent me screenshots. Page 3. On day 4, Avery showed up at my apartment building. Not my door, the parking lot. I saw her car 2 rows over when I got home from work. She was sitting inside pretending to look at her phone. I drove past, parked on the street, and called the non-emergency police line from my car. The officer who came out was polite but tired. Avery told him she was waiting for a friend. The officer asked the friend's name. Avery said, "Grant." I said, "I'm not her friend." He told her to leave. She cried, said I was being cruel, said she had nowhere else to park safely. The officer said, "Ma'am, this is an apartment lot, not a feelings lot." I almost laughed. He gave her a warning and told me to keep records. That became page 4. That night she texted from an unknown number, "You're making me look crazy." I replied once, "Stop doing crazy things." Then I blocked that number too. Update 2, 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later, Avery escalated from appearing to interfering. It started at work. Reception called back to my treatment room and said there was a woman asking for me. I had a patient on the table, so I asked who it was. Reception said, "Avery. She says she's your emergency contact." She was not. My emergency contact is my brother, Cole. I told reception not to let her pass the lobby. Avery apparently started crying and saying she needed to speak to me because we had shared medical paperwork. That was creative. False, but creative. My clinic manager, Dana, came to get me after security escorted Avery out. Dana said, "Is this going to be a problem?" I said, "I'm trying to make sure it isn't." Then I showed her the police warning and the gym documentation. Dana's expression changed from annoyed to serious. She said, "Send everything to HR today." So I did. HR created an incident file and told the front desk not to confirm my schedule to anyone. That mattered later, because the next day Avery called pretending to be my sister. She asked what time my last appointment ended. The receptionist, already warned, said she could not provide staff schedules. Avery hung up. The caller ID showed her salon's number, page 9. Then came the fake emergency. At 11:30 p.m. on a Thursday, Kendra called me. I almost didn't answer, but I did. She sounded panicked. "Grant, Avery texted me saying she took something and she wants you to come over." I sat up. "What did she take?" "I don't know. She just said, 'Tell Grant I'm sorry.'" I said, "Call 911. Kendra said she said not to. I said, "Kendra, call 911. Then I hung up and called 2. I did not go over. That is important. Old me would have gone. Old me would have rushed over, heart pounding, ready to rescue her from the fire she started just to see if I would come running. New me called professionals. Police and EMS went to her apartment. She had taken nothing. She was sitting on the couch crying with a glass of wine and her phone in her hand. Kendra called me back at 12:20. She sounded exhausted. She said she admitted she just wanted to see if you still cared. I said, "That's not care. That's a hostage drill." Kendra said, "I know." Then she said something I still remember. "Grant, I love my sister, but you need to protect yourself." That became the unexpected ally I did not know I needed. The next Monday, Avery found out I had gone on a date. Her name was Natalie. 31F. She was a speech therapist at another clinic in town. We met through Dana, actually. Coffee first, then dinner. Nothing dramatic. She was calm in a way that did not demand attention. We went to a small Italian restaurant in Cary. Halfway through dinner, Natalie looked past my shoulder and said, "Do you know her?" I didn't need to turn around. I already knew. Avery was at the bar, alone. Wearing the green dress she wore on our anniversary the year before. I said, "Unfortunately, yes." Natalie said, "Is she dangerous?" I said, "I'm finding out." Avery walked over with a glass of wine in her hand and smiled at Natalie. "Hi, I'm Avery." "The woman he's still in love with." Natalie looked at me, not angry, assessing. I said, "Avery, leave." Avery laughed. "Wow, so cold. Does she know you're emotionally unavailable, or is that a second date surprise?" The manager came over because other tables were staring. I said, "I have documented harassment. Please ask her to leave." Avery's face went red. She threw the wine, not at me, at Natalie. It hit Natalie's shoulder and the table. Everything stopped. The manager called police. Avery started sobbing immediately and saying it slipped. Nobody believed that. A server had seen her pull her arm back. Police arrived. Natalie gave a statement. I gave a statement. The restaurant gave security footage. Avery received a criminal trespass warning from the restaurant and a citation for disorderly conduct. Natalie went home. I apologized 10 times in the parking lot. She said, "You didn't throw the wine." I said, "I brought the weather." She said no. She followed the weather report. That was when I knew I liked her. The next morning, I filed for a protective order. Filing fee was waived because it involved harassment and unwanted contact. My attorney consultation cost $350. The attorney, Marisol, told me my folder was excellent, which is a depressing compliment. Sticky note, gym report, coffee shop screenshots, police warning, apartment parking incident, workplace incident, fake emergency call records, restaurant statement, wine incident, texts from unknown numbers, Instagram screenshots. It was not a folder anymore. It was a timeline. Avery was served 2 days later. She posted one final story before her lawyer probably told her to stop. When you love someone so deeply, they criminalize your heart. Riley sent it to me with the message, her heart needs probation. I did not laugh. Okay. I laughed a little. Final update, 3 months later, the protective order was granted. 1 year. No contact. 500 feet from my home, workplace, gym, and Natalie's workplace. No third-party messages. No fake accounts. No showing up at places she knows I will be. The hearing was strange. Avery arrived in a cream sweater and minimal makeup. Soft voice. Small earrings. Very misunderstood woman in a streaming documentary. Her attorney tried to frame everything as mutual emotional turmoil after a difficult breakup. My attorney, Marisol, did not let that breathe for long. She walked through the timeline. Not feelings. Facts, my tablet, my work schedule, the sticky note, the gym, the coffee shop, the parking lot, the fake emergency, the workplace impersonation, the restaurant, the wine. The judge asked Avery directly why she went to my gym at 6 a.m. if she had never worked out there before. Avery said, I was trying to improve myself. The judge asked why she approached me after I asked for space. Avery said, I needed closure. The judge asked why closure required pretending to be my emergency contact. Avery did not have a good answer for that. Then the judge asked about the restaurant. Avery said she was hurt seeing me with another woman. The judge said being hurt is not a legal defense for throwing wine. That was the cleanest sentence in the room. Order granted. Avery cried. I did not. Not because I felt nothing. Because I had already spent 3 months feeling everything, and by then all that remained was relief. After the order, things got quiet. Not perfectly at first. There were 2 fake Instagram accounts that viewed my stories within a week. I stopped posting. Natalie made her page private. My gym changed my check-in profile so my last visit time was not visible. My apartment building removed Avery from every guest access note. HR kept her photo at reception for 60 days. That felt embarrassing. Then necessary. Then normal. Avery lost her salon job about a month later. Not because of me. I did not call them. I did not review bomb. I did not send screenshots. From what Kendra told me, Avery had started missing appointments, crying between clients, and telling customers too much about her abusive ex who used the court system to silence her. One client was apparently a paralegal. Bad audience. Kendra texted me once after the hearing. She said, I'm sorry for my part in the early calls. I thought I was helping her. I didn't understand how bad it was. I replied, you told me to protect myself when it mattered. Thank you. That was our last conversation. Natalie and I are still dating. Slowly. Carefully. She has never once asked for my phone password. She does not track my location. She does not appear at my workplace with coffee and a crisis. If I say I'm busy, she says, okay, talk later. The first time she did that, I stared at the message like it was a magic trick. Okay, talk later. No punishment, no spiral, no interrogation, just trust. My life got better in boring ways. I changed gyms. Not because the order failed, but because I wanted a place that didn't remind me of looking over my shoulder between sets. I got promoted to lead therapist at the clinic. Small raise, bigger caseload. My own office with a window that faces a brick wall, but still. Window. I adopted a dog from a rescue in Durham. His name is Murphy. He's a scruffy terrier mix with one ear that doesn't commit to standing up. Avery would have hated him because he sheds on black clothes. That makes me like him more. Sometimes people ask why I did not see Avery's obsession earlier. The honest answer is I did. I just called it love when it was convenient. I called it insecurity when it made me feel compassionate. I called it passion when it made me feel wanted. But obsession is not love with extra volume. Obsession is control wearing romance as a costume. Love does not need to know your work schedule to feel safe. Love does not test you with fake emergencies. Love does not stalk your first date and call it closure. Love does not throw wine at a woman whose only crime was ordering pasta across from you. Avery did not want me happy. She wanted me available. There is a difference. Available to answer. Available to reassure. Available to absorb. Available to prove over and over that she mattered more than my boundaries. The moment I stopped being available, she called it cruelty. That is how obsession talks. It turns your boundary into an attack, your silence into abuse, your peace into betrayal. Your new life into evidence that you never cared. But I did care. That was the problem. I cared so much I kept explaining things that did not need explaining. I kept softening no until it sounded like maybe. I kept mistaking her panic for proof of love. Now I know better. A person can cry and still be dangerous to your peace. A person can miss you and still not deserve access. A person can say, "I love you," while meaning, "I own the version of you that answered every time." I do not answer every time anymore. Actually, I do not answer at all. My phone is quiet most nights. Murphy sleeps by the door. Natalie sends normal texts. My tablet has a new passcode Avery would never guess because it is random, ugly, and saved nowhere. Peace is not dramatic. It does not make good Instagram captions. It sounds like a locked door, a normal dinner, a phone face down on the counter. A morning where nobody is waiting by the water fountain pretending it's fate. That is enough for me. More than enough. If you've ever dealt with someone who called obsession love, tell me what you would have done in the comments. Subscribe, like, and share this story, and comment whether you've faced something similar or what your opinion is.